Haunted houses. Dark mysteries hidden in a single house. Sometimes the whole neighborhood is just haunted. The movies and stories about haunted houses are very intriguing, especially when set in the western countries of the global north. Fall is here, leaves are falling, clouds are heavy, rain and mist are dominating the landscape. The day is getting shorter, darkness is slowly prevailing. A perfect setting for a scenario of a haunted house story. Anyways, from an urbanistic and architectural point of view, there is something in common about most of these stories. They are usually set in a suburban context. Is this a coincidence? You are watching Stripping Architecture, and in this episode we'll be stripping some of the stories about haunted houses from an urbanistic perspective. This will help us to reveal the following. How come the suburbia, the urban development that was supposed to guarantee a pleasant life, is actually an inspiration for horrifying stories? Stay tuned. It is interesting that the stories and movies about haunted houses almost always start with a scenery from a nice suburban landscape. Gorgeous representative houses floating in large lawns decorated with bushes, flowers, and a variety of yard ornaments. The sun is bathing at the rooftops and people are having a great ordinary day. Everything looks optimistic, a total counterpoint of a horrifying scenario. It is hard to imagine that something bad could happen in this kind of comfortable urban setting. But this is exactly what makes these stories so appealing to the viewer. There is a guarantee for plot transformation, drama, and suspense. We all want to see how this gorgeous context that promises peace and stability will be eventually transformed into horror. Is it even possible? When the night falls, all this joy of life slowly morphs into a traumatic experience. Due to the explicit car-centric design of the suburbs, the sidewalks and the streetlights are either missing or in a bad condition. This significantly discourages movement without a vehicle. Therefore, the public spaces are eerie and hollow. From the distance you can usually see some light at the front door of the houses, but the sign is clear: no loitering. Seeing this sign in the night makes you often think, but wait, what if I see someone loitering against the walls of a house? Is that just some of the residents, or someone is actually trying to sneak in the house? What should I do if I see something? A little paranoia is usual in these kind of moments. In addition to that, you often see the blinking lights from the cameras or the alarm systems. Their purpose is to protect the landlord. But what if they get activated? Is it just a raccoon that approached the house, or there is something more serious going on? Whatever triggers the alarm, for sure it will not be visible in the night. Oh wait! What is a synonym of something not being visible in the night? Ghosts. But wait, ghosts do not exist. But it doesn't matter. If something moves and you can't see it, it is just like a ghost. However, you try to calm yourself down by convincing yourself that ghosts are just harmless air puffs that move like a wind. In that moment you hear the wind chimes twinkling. Damn, was it a ghost or just the wind? All the beautiful extensions, verandas, porches, winter gardens and sheds that are offering nice merge of the indoor and outdoor spaces during the day, at night time they're projecting dark corners. More edges means more strange shadows that are increasing the spatial suspiciousness. These places are created with the purpose of being actively used by people. But when you see these spaces quiet and empty, the feeling of liminality is inevitable. You keep imagining how there are people walking and using these porches, but during the night there is simply no people there. Ghosts. Again ghosts, but now created by memories. The distances between houses are enormous. There is so much empty and dark space that walking away from the house seems like an infinity. More so, nighttime, many of the houses look similar and you kinda lose orientation. Is this my hometown? Am I somewhere familiar? Or maybe I am nowhere? The sense of nowhere is a common suburban experience that is descriptively explained in the book The Geography of Nowhere by James Howard Kunstler. Written in a slightly cynical and ironic way, this book demonstrates how the heroic attitude for short-term profit and progress is actually distancing us from the social values of one space. Taking these values away from people, in fact, it means priming an urban space to be scary. We highly recommend you reading this book. It was written in 1993, but it's still applicable till today. If you go in the description, you'll find an affiliated link for this book, and if you buy it via this link, we will earn some commission and you will actually support our channel. This book shows how suburbs often feel like a confusing dream. The mental games are challenging, your body can easily start experiencing stress and agony. In most of the suburbs, there is literally no sign of social control. For example, if you want to walk your dog in the night hours, you often wonder, should I grab some lamp, battery, or just the phone is enough? What if I run out of phone battery? What if something happens and I need help? Should I call for help? Would people come and help me? Or I might be seen as a threat, as a ghost. Oh shit, am I a ghost? The psychological terror can easily occur if only one bad thought enters our minds. I mean, historically speaking, most of the horror stories were conceived in the rural areas. There where the night visibility was poor and the public life quiet. Perfect conditions for generating illusions and irrational fears. That is normal. But back then, the powerful weapon against these irrational fears were the strong communities and sense of belonging. Just think about it. In many of the traditional stories, you will see how the villagers are defeating the monsters with shovels, farming forks, and torches. The most scary part in the suburban areas is the lack of the community. The collective efficacy is missing. This is what frequently makes us intimidated in some of the suburban settings. Often, you don't believe your neighbor because you don't have spaces where to foster the mutual relationship and put each other's trust on a test. The house and its residents are the only entities that can communicate in a continuous manner. Everything else is the outer world, the wilderness. The opening scenery of the TV show From maybe portrays all this complexity in one frame. People are retreating in their houses. After finishing the daily activities, a person with a bell is warning everyone to go home and to lock the doors. That's the sheriff. Night falls and danger is coming. Cursed souls are terrorizing the dwellers of the town. However, as long as you stay in your house, you will be safe. But the demons will make any kind of tricks in order to fool you and bring you out of the house. This is the plot of the TV show From. Let's forget what is outside and just focus on what is inside this house, says the sheriff. And as long as we stay inside, we are safe. But outdoors is dangerous. These are the best lines from this TV show that in a short manner describes the hysteria that is caused by the combination of the suburban environment and darkness. Your home, your house, and your property is your right. That is your lawful belonging and your justful protector. However, when we experience paranoid moments, we tend to construct our worst nightmares. People are social beings. We thrive by collective actions. We also have continuous need to express ourselves and to communicate. Therefore, when we are alone and threatened, we incline to talk with anything, and we often do that with objects too. When you're afraid and alone in your house, you tend to talk with yourself, with your house. You ask for questions, but there is no answers. This is a fertile soil for psychosis. A perfect recipe for paranoia and for developing irrational fears. Fears that we cannot ignore because they are simply part of us. Haunted houses are personification of our inner fears and our delusional loss of mind, where we tend to create our most feared enemies out of those who are supposed to be our major protectors. Our house. With the purpose of illustrating this phenomenon in a little bit more comprehensive way, as always, we decided to make a little reflection sketch. On this sketch, we have imagined how houses are taking the form of a cage. These cages are actually just floating in the darkness. This is a metaphor that illustrates the following. When a house or a home is not being part of a sensible public infrastructure, this house can easily morph into a cage. cage that keeps us trapped, but at the same time exposed to danger. In this kind of context, we tend to create constructs of our scariest illusions. So there you go, that was it for today. And before we close this episode, we just want to say that don't worry, there is plenty of horrifying scenarios in the urban settings of the city. But in this episode, we decided to tackle the suburban context because very often it's being marketed as the utopia, the best place where you can just live peacefully. However, we also want to add that lately, at least in Belgium, you can find plenty of interesting and well-developed suburban places with nice public infrastructure, and there is more and more work being done for that, which is actually exciting. Hopefully you learned something from this episode. Big thanks to our Patreons. Become a patron and support our work. If you like this episode and you want to see more of our stuff that we produce, you can check these videos over here and subscribe, share, comment, and keep stripping the architecture of your city, and you'll find plenty of hidden values. Bye bye.